Yo dudes, how's it going? So today we're going to be having a little discussion with my good friend here, Mr. Henry.
What's going on, guys?
This dude is more knowledgable than me in this, so he's going to talk a lot more than me. I'm just saying that right now. Just saying.
I try.
Well, you've been studying game design for how long? How many years? How many years have I known
high
you?
school?
Yeah.
So
like
just a couple, like 8, 9.
Yeah, almost a decade.
Yeah,
almost a decade. So, just a little background for that. Moving on. So, basically everyone obviously knows Scorpio is going to be this almighty, more powerful Xbox One console. And Microsoft has been raining about it for, what, a year and 2 years? Has it been 2 years?
About a year and a half now.
Year and a half? Yeah. It'll be officially 2 years this E3. But I guess what we should probably first ask is what makes the Scorpio special? Is it just the power? Is that really what it is?
The one thing I'd probably say that makes the Scorpio special is just their new processor. More cores, more power, 6 teraflops. That's quite the processor, especially for gaming consoles.
So what's the difference between that and the current one, though? I mean, what like make a comparison here. Like, if I have an Xbox One right now, I have an Xbox One S. So what is the big difference of me jumping on the Scorpio?
It sounds like the big difference for the Scorpio is their overclocking their new processor more. So if you compare it, okay, well, let's not compare it to the S. Let's compare it to the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So as far as gigahertz go, I think what is the Pro running at? 4 gigahertz right now?
I think it was like 4.2 or something stupid like that.
With 8 cores, and so the current for the Scorpio, they're actually running at about 4.5 with 8 cores overclocked. So that's been Microsoft's architecture for the One. Has been just overclocking the crap out of their CPUs. I thought it was going to be a bad idea in the beginning, mainly because of the original Xbox 360 and how it had overheating issues. But it seems like they've solved that this time around. So, but yeah, as far as like upgrading, that would be the biggest thing, and then also getting rid of their some of their memory issues that they had with the original Xbox. Mainly, a lot of those things you're seeing, the changes you're seeing in their dashboard and how they're changing that, how snaps are going to be gone. They're shrinking the size of the processes that you're going to be able to do, and focusing more on what they need to be focusing on, and that's frame rate for their games.
Right.
Games in general, and not so much a home media console, but an actual gaming console.
Right. Okay. Well, moving on from that, Phil Spencer's been really talking to the media for the last, I don't know, I want to say, he talks a lot to the media. He's actually very open, and recently he literally quoted saying that there will be some games that run natively at 4K. Now, when you say natively, one person normally thinks, okay, so no matter what, this game I'm playing at current is going to, no matter what, be 4K resolution. Is that even realistic for any game? So
it's more, I would say, put in layman's terms, it's more like a filter that the Xbox is kind of be adding.
Okay.
It's not necessarily that the games are going to be made for 4K.
Okay.
It's the fact that the console itself can output natively in 4K if it's needed, and if you have the right television to do so.
So would you say that he's kind of
it's a bit loaded.
It's a bit loaded. It can be done. It's just a very, very specific way to be doing it.
It's very vague. It's very vague. It's a marketing ploy. I would say that.
Well, that's for sure.
Not to say that Phil Spencer isn't a good guy, because he's done a lot of good things for Microsoft in the recent future. Compared to their last president.
We don't need to talk about that. That's a video for another day.
Yeah. But yes, no, the native 4K thing is it's probably not going to be. People are going to grab the console and immediately find out that it is not 4K with any game that they play.
Gotcha.
Especially if they don't have a 4K television.
Well, I think that's a big thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about either. I mean, how many times do you think you've probably fallen for a ploy like that? Like you see something really good, but you need X thing to do it. It's like wanting to play Witcher 3 when it came out. I bought a freaking $2,000 computer. Mm-hmm. I want to play that thing in ultra settings. That did not happen.
as far as recent memory goes, I would definitely go back to like the PlayStation 3 when they initially launched the PlayStation 3. $600. They were like, "This is going to be like the most amazing video game console ever."
That is the exact thing that happened. It's happening right now, actually.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Not to say that the PlayStation 3 wasn't great. It did do very well, but
later,
yeah. After they brought out their Slim and they improved their library a bit. And
the fun thing to note about that is that during that generation of 360 and PlayStation 3 and Wii, that was the longest console generation.
Yep.
Lasted what, 15 years?
Yeah, still. Well, it's dying.
It's dying.
This year.
It's pretty much dead at this point. But
yeah,
it was the longest running, and I think that was mostly due to Microsoft because they released the 360 early, didn't they? What was the difference between 360 and PS3? Just off topic for a second, wasn't it like almost a half a year?
Yeah, it was about 7 to 8 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, moving on from that, just a quick question on this part. Quick answer, more like it. Is this good for gaming, the gaming industry as a whole, to make a console that is supposedly so much more powerful than all the other ones, and literally blasting it out there like that? Like, is it good for gamers like us? Like, on a price point, just overall, do you think it's good to do this to the gaming industry?
For the industry, yes, just because it shows more diversity in product.
Okay.
I mean, there's going to be there's going to be people out there that are going to buy the Scorpio, and it's going to be more powerful. It will be a more powerful console. Do not kid yourself. But it's not going to be for everybody because the price point is not going to be there for a while. Okay. If you're the normal consumer and if you're wanting to spend $299 on a console, this is not your console.
No.
This is the enthusiast's console for sure. Not everybody's going to buy this thing, especially just because it's 4K. It's going to be for the processing power and improving frame rate.
Right. So it's definitely not for everyone. I don't even think it's for me. I mean, I don't really care for a 4K, honestly.
Yeah. I
care more about that smooth looking screen. I want to see them legs moving nice and smooth. We're going to move on from that. Do you think this is, how do I want to put this? Do you think financially this is a good idea for Microsoft?
Is it financial?
Because I'm just throwing this out there, and I'm only saying it because it bugs me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In the last, 5 years, I feel like they've lost a lot of money. I mean a lot of money on a console that's underselling dramatically in comparison to what their previous console sold.
Mm-hmm.
They are dipping their money into other things that are not going to pay off, like buying Minecraft for $2 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of threw me off. And now they were also dipping into their lens. They were dumping a crap ton of money into that, and now they're dumping more money into supposedly the most powerful console. Is this a good idea with everything they've been throwing their money at?
So what you got to realize about tech companies is that that's what they do. They have a lot of money to throw at for these new technologies and to see what sticks in the consumer's eye.
But so much in, I feel like, such a short time.
Right. I mean, it is financially, numbers. It's bad. It's not that bad. It's not like, oh my god, Microsoft's never going to make another video game console because they're just not going to have the money for it and the market isn't there. No, the market is going to be there, but yeah, they're definitely going to take a financial hit from the Scorpio, and probably in my opinion.
we're not talking like Sony standards, right? Because Sony almost went under because of the PS3. They barely recovered from that, or still recovering, actually. I think.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily. They almost went under, but I mean,
well, they lost a lot of money.
They did lose a lot of money, but it's more of the experience of what consumers will and will not buy.
Okay.
So they really want to see if there's a market for the enthusiast, like they're trying to like dabble in the PC market, because this is how Microsoft is trying to like market their games division now. Is going to be, it's Windows 10 devices, so obviously right. PC, and now they're coming out with the Scorpio, which is going to be like an enthusiast gaming PC kind of console. And then they have their tablets, phones, everything. They're trying to incorporate everything that they possibly can. So this is just another market that they're seeing if it's going to work or not. Maybe not necessarily for this generation, but for next generation, I could totally see Microsoft coming out of the gate with with two consoles, or two devices. I shouldn't say consoles.
Okay. Yeah.
In their next generation, one's going to be for the normal consumer, the other one's going to be for the enthusiast. I mean.
Okay, well, let's break a little bit from that. That could go on for a while. No offense.
I was trying to stop myself there. Yeah, I was like,
just real quick, what do you think a realistic price that it should be charged? Mm-hmm. What do you think they're gonna charge? Because I can't remember what console it was. Maybe it was the PS3. Back in the day, there was a realistic standard price they were trying to go for, but they were selling below. Every time they sold a console, they were losing money. I believe they were doing that with the Wii U as well. I believe the Wii U was losing fucking couple $100 every single time they sold one. Mm-hmm. So what do you think a realistic price would be that they need to charge it for versus how much they should? Because I think we all know how much they should be selling the Scorpio for. I mean, no more than 500, maybe 600 at best. Mm-hmm. Just for everyone to be able to get access to it. Mm-hmm. We don't want another PS3 thing, but what do you think they should price it at?
$399. The original sell point for the Xbox One, because their current console is $249. That would be like the perfect price point if they want to like meet that middle ground between normal consumers and enthusiasts.
But that would also put it below the PS4 Pro, because the Pro is at $450 if I remember correctly, unless it's on sale and I don't know about it.
The Pro started at $399.
Did it?
Yep.
I thought that was only a holiday thing.
Huh? They've stuck $399.
Oh, okay. So $399 is fine. Never mind. I take that back.
Yeah. If they do make it at $399, Microsoft will be losing money. They'll be making sales and growing consumer confidence for sure. Right. Especially if the console does what it says it will do. To be seen, but it will play your games at 60 frames per second. I have no doubt. Just the same thing as the Pro does right now.
Okay. There's also one other thing where we go back to the whole TV thing. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that a lot of people have good TVs right now still. I believe a lot of people have their decent 1080, 720 TVs, and I feel like that's great. Yeah. But I don't feel like there's enough 4K TVs out for Sony to have made the Pro. I don't feel like there's been enough sold in the last, since 4K even came to be a thing, to even justify making a console built around it yet. I feel like it's too out of the gate, just like Blu-ray was for PS3. It was too expensive at the time, and I still feel like it's too expensive to move forward on 4K. So, but the other thing about 4K is that aside from people having a 4K television, mm-hmm. do people actually realize that it's capped at 30 frames? You will not get higher frame rate. Yeah. It will not happen.
So regardless of the hardware on an Xbox or a PlayStation that might be able to actually run these games at 60 frames per second, your television screen, your monitor, whatever you're using, cannot render 4K resolution at 60 frames per second. It cannot do it.
Do you think anyone even knows that? Like just give a general thought of people like maybe you work with or something. Do you think even half of them understand and know that 4K is not going to be able to be shown at 30 FPS.
I wouldn't say so. Just because these companies are pushing 4K so hard,
why is it that nobody emphasizes that?
Because there's not a lot of information on it. Like, there's the company, the television companies, and Microsoft and Sony. Sony's also a television company. Don't really want to, especially if they're trying to push these 60 frames. They're trying to push 60 frames and 4K at the same time.
But you can't.
You can't, and then they have a conflict of interest in where they're supposed to, really grow their technology. They're trying to do it at the same time. It's a little deceptive, little deceptive. So, what I would recommend is don't look at these consoles as 4K consoles, because here's the facts: 4K is already going out the door next year at CES. Last year and this year, they've already shown off 4K monitors and televisions. 8K
it's been
monitor
getting
and televisions.
shown off a lot for what 4K can do and what they want to do with it. But as far as actually getting it out to people, consumers, it's a little bit different. So, mostly on the affordable range, anyways.
Yeah. 4K is not your jump from standard definition to high definition. 4K is ongoing, and there's going to be 8K, and there probably is going to be 16K before.
I could have sworn there was already an 8K TV.
There is. That's exactly what I was
sworn it was
talking
shown
about.
off last year.
It was shown off last year, or
Right.
shown off this year.
Yep.
8K screens are already upon us, and
they are a thing. They're just not. You're not going to get one. Well, just a small note on that. What would you prefer? You want your smooth frames, or would you rather have that nice looking screen?
Personally, I would rather have my it's a game. It's something I interact with. It's something that I can control. So when it comes to TV, I want my 4K. But when it comes to games and something that I'm actually interacting with, I rather have that run as smooth as possible. From my eye to the television, I can see that interaction and it feels right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So would you say it's possibly... Could you ever, split that thought process depending on what genre you're playing? Like, if I'm playing a fighting game, I have to play at 60 FPS. I have to. But if I'm playing maybe an open world game, maybe Assassin's Creed, maybe I wouldn't mind so much on the 30 FPS because, I'm kind of in the open world to admire the entire world that it's in.
I would say a more cinematic game would definitely take advantage of more of a 4K, more 4K feel.
And I get brought back to the Order for some reason.
This is why the developers of the Order defended 30 FPS with their life, is because that game was meant to be a cinematic experience.
And it was.
The problem is that they're making a video game. They're making
a video game, not a movie. Pick
movie,
one.
yeah.
You could have made an animation any day of the week. Let's see here. Let's go. So, do you think it's a good idea for Microsoft to be upgrading to 4K when most of their games can't even hit 1080p right now? Is it okay for them to be rocking 900p or maybe 1080p sometimes with still a 30 frame lock on most of their games, and now all of a sudden just kind of jump into the 4K? I mean, are they just trying to correct their own mistake, or do you think it's worth it?
So this is where you guys are probably going to see me be a little bit of a hypocrite here. So I still defend 4K to some extent, surely because it's pushing the technology further. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit deceptive, and Microsoft isn't marketing it correctly like they should, because they need to build consumer confidence.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Microsoft and other companies like Sony are still pushing that technology forward. So it might not be good right now, but later on, when not just the consumer, but other businesses that deal in technology see this, they're like, okay, so now this has become the standard. Let's push. That's always how it's been. It's set the standard, push, set the standard, push, set the standard, push for technological innovations.
So you think by setting the standard, we're going to get closer to that perfect 1080p, 60 FPS kind of deal?
We're going to get,
maybe not.
we're going to get closer to that
Perfect
that
margin.
4K 60.
Okay.
Yeah, the problem is the televisions aren't there and they're not telling us. It's a miscommunication and marketing blunder.
Which brings me to the last question. What do you think they have to do to market this correctly to actually come out okay on it? Because I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I am on Sony's side at this point in this console generation. In the last generation, I was all for Xbox. I love my 360, all 5 of them, because all of them broke. But that's beside the point. I feel Sony has won 100% of the time, and they are way ahead on sales. What is it that Microsoft's going to have to do to even consider themselves or this console relevant? Well, I mean, how are they going to market it? How are they going to get sales? Because if I remember correctly, they had a huge outlook on what they wanted the Xbox One to be. If I remember right, a rumor was that they expected to sell over 200 million consoles, which is kind of a bit of a stretch, considering what the PS2 only sold about upwards of 160, and that was the best-selling console of all time.
Yep.
It's a little odd for Microsoft to be shooting for that score when I do believe the 360 only sold, I want to say 80 million, 60, 80, somewhere in there. So what do they have to do to market this?
Well, I'll bring it back just a little bit. So once again, they're not selling this to you and me. They're not selling it to the consumer. They're selling it to the enthusiast, and they're selling it to the developers, to say, hey, we're trying something different. Regardless if it's for the mainstream, consumer or not, we want as Microsoft to push a new product out that can innovate in the console market. It's basically like a test. Think of it like as like a test for the market.
I understand that. It's just I get split on these matters of enthusiast versus casual. I don't want to say casual. Normal consumer. Let's just go with consumer and enthusiasts. I feel like they're pushing too hard for the people with a wallet. And I feel like they're just kind of leaving everyone else that doesn't have that much money in their wallet. And I feel like the difference in amount of customers that they could get is just ridiculous. I feel like the normal consumer that has littler amounts of money could give them more sales, could give them more popularity, and just give them what they need right now.
Yeah.
Rather than jumping for an enthusiasts that are going to give them a lot of money at once, but definitely nowhere near get the same amount of sales that a normal consumer could give you.
Maybe I should reword this. They're not making... I know this is going to sound really weird. They're not making this console to make money. They're making this console to prove a point.
Prove a point.
To prove a point that they can make a more powerful console at probably a more reasonable price than anybody else in the industry has before.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. It's Microsoft. I mean, no one doubts that power. And honestly, I don't feel like anyone really cares about that. So that's why the Scorpio kind of confuses me on a lot of stances, I guess.
They're future-proofing their ideas for their next generation.
They're not looking now. They're looking for later.
They are looking for later, because regardless of what everybody keeps on saying, like, Microsoft isn't doing that bad in the console race. It's not as bad as PlayStation right now. Like, they're still in there. It's probably going to change when the Switch comes out. It's probably going to change dramatically when the Switch comes out.
Yeah.
But like, currently right now they're not doing terribly, and I have no doubt that they're probably working on both. Actually, yeah, maybe not Nintendo, but Sony and Microsoft are looking towards their next generation already. It's already happening. It's not going to be the Scorpio, but
what you're saying is that they're preparing for the next generation without really throwing it out there in the next gen.
Exactly. So they're throwing out 2 consoles, both companies are, and seeing if that idea sticks with the consumer, and if it does,
they're going to push it forward to the next generation.
They're going to push it forward to the next generation.
So, on that front then, do you think with what Microsoft's showing for their Scorpio versus what Sony did with their Pro, because we all know that the Pro is basically a beefed up PS4 Pro. I mean, the normal PS4. It's the architecture and the parts are almost completely identical. They're just a little tiny bit better, and it does help.
Yeah.
But with the Scorpio versus a normal Xbox One,
Mm-hmm.
they're dramatically different.
Yeah.
So would you say that Microsoft's like almost stapling their way to say, you know what, we're prepared for the next round?
Basically the problem with all this, though, it still comes down to third-party developers and whether or not it's good for the developers to develop on the console. So regardless of how well the Scorpio does with the developers, their next generation console, they better get the architecture right so that it's easier to develop for. Because you look at what Nintendo's doing right now with the Switch, is that all the developers just like, this is awesome. It's so easy to develop for. We're making games. We got third party support. Let's go.
Right.
And Sony kind of did that with the PlayStation 4. People were like, it's just amazing. It's awesome.
Right.
Microsoft not so much because with all the home features and Snap, and it made
that Snap mode. I'm sorry, I gotta say it was really bad. Like every time I've tried to use that thing, it just like it lags the whole console, and sometimes it would close out my entire game. And it's just like, I'm glad that thing's going away.
Yeah, no, it was bad for the consumer. It was bad for the developers. It was bad all around. It seems like they're trying to fix that with the Scorpio.
That's what it feels like in the entirety of Microsoft right now. Is they're making one mistake after another, and then quickly trying to go back and fix it.
Yeah,
and
but that's research and development. That's exactly how that works.
But
it's
normally
trial
you're supposed to do that behind closed doors for the most part, not mess up so many times in a row. That's the problem I'm seeing.
Right,
is they're openly screwing up, not on purpose.
No, actually, they are doing it on purpose.
They're screwing up on purpose.
It's so how research and development works for the most part nowadays is they used to have control groups come in and hundreds of control groups come in and test products and stuff like that. But tech companies nowadays, what they do is they ship products out for us to test to see if we will like it, and they update it from there, and they know we're going to buy it.
Right.
And that's where we as the consumer have to be smart and say, okay, wait a second, just hold on. Now, if you support that company, if you support Microsoft, you support Sony, support Nintendo, I would say buy their console. So, I mean, somebody has to buy it. Somebody has to buy it. Somebody has to test it. Somebody has to review it. Somebody has to say something about the console. Or not, everybody's not going to be like a lemming and just be like, buy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's about all I can ask. Do you have your own thoughts or questions?
The only thing I would say, guys, is just be cautious on your purchase. We haven't gotten final specs yet on the console, so until we see that, I would just say just hold off for a second. Just relax until we get those final facts. Make sure you have a 4K television. If you don't have a 4K television, by the time the Scorpio comes out, I would definitely look into purchasing one just to maximize the total cost of the console. If you don't have a 4K television, regardless, the processor is going to be better, and it's going to run games more smoothly. It's 60 frames, unlike the current Xbox One. So I would say definitely keep your eyes open for that, because 4K is not here to stay.
No, it's definitely not. Maybe 5 years from now in the next generation, whenever it decides to hit, hopefully we're not going to be extending that again.
Yeah.
For some odd reason, I feel like this generation's I feel like it's really out of order. I mean, Nintendo's had like 2 different freaking consoles at this point in one generation. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we're going to end it early, almost.
It's not. No, we're going to be in this for this generation for the long haul.
Really?
Yeah.
You feel like it's going to be longer?
Yeah. Because like I was saying before, that's how tech companies operate now, is they throw out products for us to test. It's not back in the day where we had like one PlayStation 2.
I feel like we're like constantly going through an early access game right now.
It is. We are. It's then early access for consoles.
Okay, on that note, I would have to honestly say, just don't even buy it right now. Wait for all the
Exactly.
actual enthusiasts to
Exactly.
buy it. Wait for that price drop.
Wait for the reviews. Wait for your favorite reviewer to review the console, and base your purchase off that. Maybe go to a Microsoft store, test the console out for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got nothing else to say. I mean, I think it'll be a nice console. Mm-hmm. I personally am not going to purchase it. So if you get it, you need to open that thing up and test it, and you need to bring it over.
Yeah, will do.
Okay, so you heard that he's gonna buy it. I'm not. I haven't even got a PS4 Pro though, although I really want to, just for Horizon Zero Dawn. Separate topic.
Yeah.
But anyways, dudes, you've heard it. I hope we've answered any questions that you may or may not have had on the Scorpio. Do have high hopes and don't have high hopes. All I gotta say is don't give in to the hype. Don't give in to the hype. There's too much hype over new consoles, and everyone jumps on it. They go to pre-order it like crazy. They try to offer ridiculous bonuses for pre-ordering these consoles, and Microsoft, we all know, is going to do it. And we all know that as soon as the next Halo game comes out, ooh, we're gonna have a special edition console. So at least wait for that, because everyone wants a Halo special edition console.
Yes.
All right, dude, that's it. Anyways, I'm Joe. This is Henry, the knowledgeable one. And we'll catch you next time. Take it easy.
Guys.